I'd like to thank Knuckle Down again for letting us use their music for our opening. That track was entitled Nightfall and is free to listen to on SoundCloud, just like our weekly podcasts. If you like what you hear, go to Facebook and like their page. And don't forget, next Saturday night they'll be playing their next gig at Boardyard Nightclub in Los Angeles. Tickets are still available, but they are going quick, and they're $12 at the door. Hello and welcome, friends, to another episode of CNE. Let me introduce myself. I am David Caduto. I'm alone this week. I'm coming back from a trip from Las Vegas. So I thought what we would do this week is talk about gambling movies. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my top three movies, and then I'm going to play a clip for you, and then I'm going to tell you why I find these movies so near and dear to my heart. So let's begin. Okay, so let's begin the countdown. My number three movie of all time, as far as gambling, is a movie that was made in the mid 90s, and it was made by the legendary Martin Scorsese, and it had an absolutely all-star cast. And I think, personally, this is one of his top five films of all time. That being said, I will now play you a clip and see if you can get it.
Before I ever ran a casino or got myself blown up, Ace Rothstein was a hell of a handicapper. I can tell you that. I was so good that whenever I bet, I could change the odds for every bookmaker in the country. I'm serious. I had it down so cold that I was given paradise on earth. I was given one of the biggest casinos in Las Vegas to run, the Tangiers, by the only kind of guys that can actually get you that kind of money, $62,700,000. I don't know all the details.
Matter of fact, nobody knew all the details. But it should have been perfect. I mean, he had me, Nicky Santoro, his best friend, watching his ass. And he had Ginger, the woman he loved, on his arm. But in the end, we f***ed it all up. It should have been so sweet, too. But it turned out to be the last time that street guys like us were ever given anything that valuable again.
At that time, Vegas was a place where millions of suckers flew in every year on their own nickel and left behind about $1 billion. But at night, you couldn't see the desert that surrounds Las Vegas. But it's in the desert where lots of the town's problems are solved.
A lot of holes in the desert, and a lot of problems are buried in those holes. Except you gotta do it right. I mean, you gotta have the hole already dug before you show up with a package in a truck. Otherwise, you're talking about half hour, 45 minutes of digging. And who knows who's going to be coming along in that time. Before you know it, you got to dig a few more holes. You could be there all night.
And that, if you couldn't figure it out by now, was from the 1995 movie Casino, starring Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Sharon Stone, which, by the way, she won a Golden Globe for, and she was outstanding. She played Ginger. So that, to me, is one of the greatest gambling movies of all time, because it was authentic. You really saw what took place, and Scorsese, when he makes a film, he doesn't pull any punches. And I truly believe the fact that they had worked in other films together, such as Goodfellas and even Raging Bull back in the day, really, really helped the chemistry for them. Every time it's on IFC or Sundance, I watch it, because the fact is that they don't edit for content, so you get the full veracity of the language. And yes, it is a lot of, some would contend there's a lot of profanity, but that's what the gangsters do, and that's how they talk. So it was just an outstanding movie all the way around. Like I said, made in the mid 90s, and so Martin Scorsese is one of those directors that's a very authentic director, and he doesn't pull any punches for anybody. And this movie here was really what good example of that, and it also basically launched Sharon Stone into a second career. So she's done well for herself since. So, not to mention, you had such characters as James Woods as playing Lester Diamond, and Don Rickles doing a rare but impressive role as Billy Sherbert, the casino manager. So, my number three gambling film of all time is Casino. So let's move on to number two. So my number two gambling movie of all time is a remake. And so what I'm going to do for you first is I'm going to play the theme, and then after I play the theme, then I will give you a little description of it, and then I will play the clip for you. All film fans should be familiar with that theme. That is the theme to James Bond. And we were introduced, well, I should say, we were introduced to a new Bond, but let me say this. My number 2 gambling movie of all time is Casino Royale. Now, this is somewhat of a remake and a reboot. The remake, the original, was done in 1967 with Peter Sellers, and this is a reboot because this is the first time there had been a Bond movie in several years. This movie was done in 2006 with brand new Bond, and his name was Daniel Craig. Instead of Baccarat, the game here was Texas Hold'em. Judi Dench came back once again to play her role as M, and we were introduced to a new Felix. This time, Bond had to stop an international terrorist from gathering hundreds of millions of dollars, and he was to go to Casino Royale to play in a high-stakes Texas Hold'em game. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play you a clip from the movie.
Come on in. Well, it's 14,500,000. It's up to you, Monsieur Bond. Bond will have to go all in to call his bluff. Go. Gentlemen, showdown, please. Full house. Kings and aces. Monsieur Le Chiffre? It's 4 checks. Monsieur Le Chiffre wins.
So that was the scene in which Bond went all in against Le Chiffre and lost with his full house to Le Chiffre's 4 jacks. Bond had believed that Le Chiffre had a tell, and in that particular hand he thought that the tell was showing, and that's why he called the bluff. Now, later on in the film, he actually gets Le Chiffre pretty good actually on a straight flush, which is very, if anybody who knows how to play poker, is extremely difficult to get. Bond does win in the end, and it was a great movie for not only today because poker was so big, but because the Bond franchise was dying. It was there hadn't been a film in several years, and they didn't know if there was ever going to come back. So for this to actually come out and have that kind of success was very big for the franchise. Now, this was, as I said before, this was Daniel Craig's first shot at James Bond. He's played the role now 4 times and is possibly coming back for a 5th film, but it's not been confirmed. I like him. I think he's one of the better Bonds. But so that one, like I said, was 2006, and it was a good quality reboot. So my number 2 gambling film of all time is Casino Royale, and coming up we're going to have the number 1 gambling film, in my opinion, of all time.
What do you need? 500 grand? Huh? I need 15,000. 15. I need a blowjob, Christy Turlington. Trying to get $15,000? No, seriously. What can you do for me, man? I mean, $500. Not even get me started. God damn, why you 500 won't help? What's 2 grand gonna do? What kind of trouble you in? With the worst guy. With the worst guy. KGB. Come here. Didn't I tell you? Never let that guy get a hold of you, huh? Told me about it. Yeah. You don't listen. I tell you to play within your means. You risk your whole bankroll. I
I tell you not to overextend yourself, to rebuild. You're going to hack for more. I was giving you a living, Mike. Showing you the playbook I put together off my own beats. That wasn't enough for you.
Listen, this is one time I don't need you to tell me how I fucked up. I know I fucked up. What I need from you is money. I need whatever money you can give me.
See, that's the thing. This time there is no money. If I give you $2,000, what's that buy you? A day? Nah, I give it to you, I'm wasting it.
That's great.
You did it to yourself. You had to put it all on the line for some Vegas pipe dream.
Yeah, I took a risk. You see all the angles. You never have been stones to play one.
Stones? You little punk. I'm not playing for the thrill of victory here. I owe rent, alimony, child support. I play for money. My kids eat. I got stones enough not to chase cards, actions, or fucking pipe dreams of winning the World Series on the ESPN. You want me to call some people? Try and buy you some time, I will. Place to stay or the truck? No problem. But about the money, I gotta do this. I gotta say no.
It's fine. I understand.
So that was one of the closing scenes from the movie. Let me give you a little bit of background. Basically, Mike was trying to help Worm out of a spot, and they had both got beaten up pretty badly from a poker game because Worm was cheating, and they both got caught. So he being Mike, went to Kanish, who was basically a mentor played by John Turturro, and said, "Hey, look, I need $15,000." And that was the scene. That was his reaction. He said, "Yeah, right. Like I have 15 grand." So basically, that was a reality check. And so that was when Mike. I'm gonna spoil this for everybody who hadn't seen it. He goes to the professor, played by Walter Matthau, and he gets him $10,000. And so Mike then goes back to KGB's and plays him in one final hand. I'll let you YouTube that for those who want to see it. So that's my number one gambling movie of all time. The reason why I hold this so near and dear to my heart, and it is number one over The Sting or The Hustler or one of those other movies, is because that's what got me into playing poker. This movie was the movie that got me into playing poker. So after I saw this movie, I became completely fascinated with the game, and I wanted to learn all its nuances, all its little intricacies and everything else. And I've been playing poker now for the better part of 20 years. And so I've done everything from playing limit poker to no limit poker to tournaments to everything. I've won a couple tournaments in my lifetime, which was nice, but this was the movie that really got the whole thing started for me. I think it, like I said before, I think it's not only a great gambling movie, I think it's really a testament of friendship and loyalty and being true to yourself and all of those other features that I think movies today don't really have. And it's when you look back on it as far as star power, it has a lot of decent stars. Like I touched upon before, Matt Damon and Ed Norton and John Malkovich and John Turturro. So it's fascinating even to see that how these stars have now. Where are they now? I mean, look at Matt Damon. He has a chance at the end of this upcoming month to win an Academy Award. Edward Norton. He's done fantastic films such as Primal Fear, American History X, and so on and so forth. John Malkovich has done. He's had a legendary career. And John Turturro has done some really good work himself. So, but that is my number one gambling movie of all time. Now, of course, my disclaimer is that this is my number one movie of all time. So, as far as, what yours may be, I'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments. But definitely, it was definitely a major influence in my life. Okay, so that's about it for this week. Next week, like I said, what we are going to discuss Deadpool. It comes out this week, so we're gonna sit down and we're gonna discuss Deadpool and all of the different things about it and how it's really made its mark as far as a movie and as far as being in the Marvel universe and everything else. Okay, well, I will talk to you next week. Like I said, please leave your comments. I will talk to you next week. And until then, be safe and take care of yourself.